All right. On my music. Got the new music. Get this thing started. I don't know which one is which. All right, there we go.
New Black Wall Street Book Club. Evan Jefferson, brother, much love. Educating, elevating, because in knowledge is the power and we'll never give it up. Literature that's for the masses. Where to put your money down, now how to watch your assets. Yeah, uplifting others is a passion. My brother Evan, he will turn it into action. New Black Wall Street Book Club. You should come read with us. Yeah, we comprehend and discuss. If we all just come together, there's no limit for us. Here comes your host, New Black Wall Street. Evan, take it away. New Black Wall Street Book Club.
All right, my beautiful people, thanks so much for tuning in. This is ERGJ, your certified financial educator, founder of the New Black Wall Street with our New Black Wall Street virtual book club. Today we're going to be going through the 48 Laws of Power, the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Now we're going to be on law number 36, and we'll get into that in just a second. Just want to make you guys aware of some things that are sponsored for today. So today's show is going to be sponsored by Coral Oral. That's right, Coral Oral, which is your toothbrushes. So you got the black-owned toothbrushes. This is a Coral Oral 4-pack. These toothbrushes are medium bristle, FDA approved, and you can get your order today for $5. All you got to do is just text us the word now. Actually, text us the word Coral to 678-851-2400. So you're going to text the word Coral to 678-851-2400. That's going to be, again, text the word Coral to 678-851-2400 to order your pack today. So here's the deal. Everybody washes their teeth. The question is, or brushes their teeth. The question is, are you going to practice what you preach by circulating your dollar right back within your very own community by switching something as simple as a toothbrush, going from whatever you may be using to Coral Oral to support your brother and sister who have created a company that actually produces toothbrushes? Just that simple. This is how we can do it. We practice what we preach by circulating our dollar with something as simple as a toothbrush. You're going to brush your teeth anyway. The question is, are you going to brush it with black-owned products, or are you going to continue to finance your own oppression by using other people's products? Well, Coral Oral, $5. Text us the word Coral, and we'll get your order sent out to you today. All right. Also, we have coming up as well our Dow 30 investment session. So if you are looking to learn about the stock market and you are a beginner, what a Dow 30 investment session is where you want to be. This is where we're going to teach you. We're going to go through week by week the Dow 30, which is the 30 most significant stocks in America. And these companies, or this session, is geared towards a beginner. So it's going to be companies that you're familiar with: Disney, Nike, Apple, Walmart, things like that. So you can go ahead and join us on Wednesdays to go through the Dow 30. You can actually click on that link there, and you can actually sign up to join us so you can begin to learn how to earn, how to make your money work for you. In other words, make your money work harder for you than you work for the money. Hey, what's going on, Crystal? Thanks so much for joining. And those that might be watching on any other place, maybe it's a personal page, maybe it's a group page, you want to come on over to MBWS TV, where we're actually streaming live right now, and you can actually interact with us as we go through the 48 Laws of Power. So now we are on to the 48 Laws of Power, which is by Robert Greene. Now, here's the deal. This book is very controversial. But the reason why we're reading this book, because this book gives strategy. So everybody put in the comments below, strategy. So you want to learn how to apply these laws to your life, number one. Then number two, you want to recognize when these laws are being applied against you so you can always operate from a position of power, from a position of power. So we're going through law number 36 today. What's going on, Kelvin? Thanks so much for joining. Law number 36. I know you don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time. It's our midday manna, our midday motivation. Let us begin. Law number 36, disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. So here's your judgment for today as it relates to law number 36. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. How many of you guys have come across a petty problem, a petty issue, someone in your life that's just being petty? Ignoring them is the best revenge. When you give life to something that's already dead, you allow it to rise again. Don't give life to petty stuff. In other words, don't sweat the small stuff. That's right. Don't sweat. The more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. Now, we see this often in what they call beef. You got someone that is prominent, like a Nicki Minaj. You got someone that nobody's ever heard of, like whatever that lady's name was. And then that person that no one knows tries to go up against the person that everybody knows. Now, the smart thing for the person that everybody knows is to ignore the person that nobody knows. But no, their pride and their ego won't let them ignore the small stuff. It won't let them let go of petty problems. So they give life to something that's dead. And they let it rise to come to their level. When they're up here, they come down here and allow other people to come up here because they pay attention to these petty problems. They got to protect their territory as if they got to do something. So the more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. And a small mistake is often made worse and more visible when you try to fix it. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. Everybody put in the comments below, leave things alone. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. I'm still learning this myself. I mean, my God, I give attention to some stuff I just shouldn't give attention to, but sometimes it's best to leave things alone. Take the high road. Let it do what it do, and you keep moving. If there's something you want but cannot have, show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. Now, in our community, this is a lesson that many people must learn. Some things you should just leave alone. We are so emotional. We're so ready to go off on something. We're so angry. And I get it. I mean, we've been bamboozled, run amok all our life. So I understand being upset and just ready to let somebody know. But what we're learning is that there are some things that are just best left alone. It's going to help us individually with our state of being, with our peace that's within. Some things are just best left alone. Leave it alone. Let it go. All right, let's move into our keys to power. Law number 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Here are keys to power. Desire often creates paradoxical effects. The more you want something, the more you chase after it, the more it eludes you. The more you want something, the more you chase after it, the more it eludes you. So now I want you to think about something that you really, really want. Something that you've been chasing. Maybe it's a guy that's been chasing a woman and she continued to elude you. Maybe it's your dream that you continue to chase. Maybe it's something that you really, really wanted. And the more you want it, and the more you chase after it, the more it seems to elude you. For many people, it's one word. It's success. The more you want it, the more you chase after it, the more it eludes you. The more interest you show, the more you repel the object of your desire. This is because your interest is too strong. It makes people awkward, even fearful. Uncontrollable desire makes you seem weak, unworthy, and pathetic. Uncontrollable desire. And this is where you get those people that seem like they're obsessed. They really, really want you or this woman or this thing so bad. It seems as if they're out of control. Uncontrollable desire. This is what some people feel like you're stalking them. You just really are interested in them, but they take it as stalking because they're not used to having someone who has uncontrollable desire, and it makes you seem weak, makes you seem unworthy, and makes you seem pathetic. You need to turn your back on what you want. Show your contempt and disdain. This is the kind of powerful response that will drive your targets crazy. They will respond with the desire of their own, which is simply to want you, which is simply to want to have an effect on you, perhaps to possess you, perhaps to hurt you. If they want to possess you, you have successfully completed the first step of seduction. If they want to hurt you, you have unsettled them and made them play by your rules. Contempt is the prerogative of the king. Where his eyes turn, what he decides to see is what his reality is. What he ignores and turns his back on is as good as dead. That was the weapon of King Louis XIV. If he did not like you, he acted as if you were not there, maintaining his superiority by cutting off the dynamic of interaction. This is the power you have when you play the card of contempt, periodically showing people that you can do without. Everybody put in the comments below the card of contempt. Have you ever played this card? It says this. It says that the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Have you ever shown people that at the end of the day, you can do without them, and then they actually love you or respect you more because you're not depending on them so much for your success? See, this is why I tell people all the time, when it comes to me, I don't wait on people. I can do it with you. Let's make this happen, or I'm going to move on without you because you're taking too long. I don't have time to wait on you to make a decision. I don't have time on you to decide that you want to move. You either ready to move or I'm moving without you. Right? This is why I see some of the success that I see, because I do not wait on people. People will waste your time. Show them that you can do it without them, and then you'll operate from a position of power. Show them that you absolutely have to have them, that they're irreplaceable. You'll operate from a position of submission. This whole book, these strategies that we are learning, is strategies that have been used on us, the community, for years, for centuries. And now maybe some of us are starting to wake up and say, man, this is a law. This is what they're doing. These are the tricks that they're playing. And we can begin to understand the laws that are being used against us, so we can always operate from a position of power. If choosing to ignore enhances your power, it follows that the opposite approach, commitment and engagement, often weakens you. By paying undue attention to a puny enemy, you look puny. And the longer it takes you to crush such an enemy, the larger the enemy seems. When Athens set out to conquer the island of Sicily in 415 BC, a giant power was attacking a tiny one. Yet by entangling Athens in a long, drawn-out conflict, Syracuse, Sicily's most important city-state, was able to grow in stature and confidence. Finally defeating Athens, it made itself famous for centuries to come. In recent times, President John F. Kennedy made a similar mistake in his attitude to Fidel Castro of Cuba. His failed invasion at the Bay of Pigs in 1961 made Castro an international hero. A second danger: if you succeed in crushing the irritant, or even if you merely wound it, you create sympathy for the weaker role. What's going on, Justin? How are you? Critics of Franklin D. Roosevelt complained bitterly and the money his administration spent on government projects, but their attacks had no resonance with the public, who saw the president as working to end the Great Depression. His opponents thought that they had an example that would show just how wasteful he had become. His dog, Fela, which he lavished with favors and attention. Critics railed at his insensitivity, spending taxpayers' money on a dog while so many Americans were still in poverty. But Roosevelt had a response. How dare his critics attack a defenseless little dog? His speech in defense of Fela was one of the most popular he ever gave. In this case, the weak party involved was the president's dog, and the attack backfired. And in the long run, it only made the president more sympathetic, since many people will naturally side with the underdog, just as the American public came to sympathize with the wily but outnumbered Pancho Villa. It is tempting to want to fix our mistakes, but the harder we try, the worse we often make them. It is sometimes more politic to leave them alone. In 1971, when the New York Times published the Pentagon Papers, a group of government documents about the history of the United States' involvement in Indochina, Henry Kissinger erupted into a volcanic rage, furious about the Nixon administration's vulnerability to this kind of damaging leak. he made recommendations that eventually led to the formation of a group called the Plumbers to plug the leaks. This was the unit that later broke into the Democratic Party offices in the Watergate Hotel, setting off the chain of events that led to Nixon's downfall. In reality, oh, it is? Okay, that's fine. In reality, the publication of the Pentagon Papers was not a serious threat to the administration, but Kissinger's reaction made it a big deal. In trying to fix one problem, he created another, a paranoia for security that in the end was much more destructive to the government. Had he ignored the Pentagon Papers, the scandal they had created would eventually have blown over. Instead of inadvertently focusing attention on a problem, make it seem worse by publicizing how much concern and anxiety it is causing you. It is often far wiser to play the contemptuous aristocrat, not deigning to acknowledge the problem's existence. There are several ways to execute this strategy. First, there is the sour grapes approach. Everybody put in the comments below sour grapes. So this is a strategy to actually act like the problem does not exist. If there is something that you want, but you realize you cannot have it, the worst thing you can do is draw attention to your disappointment by complaining about it. This is what so many people do. I mean, if there's something that you want and you realize that you cannot have it, the worst thing you can do is draw attention to your disappointment by complaining about it. How many of you guys know people that complain about what they cannot have, although they want it? Complain. That's the worst thing that you can do. An infinitely more powerful tactic is to act as if it never really interested you in the first place. When the writer George Sand's supporters nominated her to be the first female member of the Académie Française in 1861, Sand quickly saw that the Academy would never admit her. Instead of whining, though she claimed she had no interest in belonging to this group of worn-out, overrated, out-of-touch windbags, her disdain was the perfect response. Had she shown her anger at her exclusion, she would have revealed how much it meant to her. Think about that. Had she shown her anger at her exclusion, it would have revealed how much it meant to her. Instead, she branded the Academy a club of old men, and while she should be angry or disappointed at not having to spend her time with them, crying sour grapes is sometimes seen as a reflection of the weak. It is actually the tactic of the powerful. The second tactic, outside of the sour grapes, when you're attacked by an inferior, deflect people's attention by making it clear that the attack was not even registered. Look away or answer sweetly, showing how little the attack concerns you. Similarly, when you yourself have committed a blunder, the best response is often to make less of your mistake by treating it lightly. Japanese Emperor Go-san, a great disciple of the tea ceremony, owned a priceless antique tea bowl that all the courtiers envied. One day, a guest, Danyan Tsunahiro, asked if he could carry the tea bowl into the light to examine it more closely. The bowl rarely left the table, but the emperor was in good spirits and he consented. As Donegan carried the bowl to the railing of the veranda, however, and held it up to the light, it slipped from his hands and fell on a rock in the garden below, smashing it into tiny fragments. The emperor, of course, was furious. It was indeed the most clumsy of me to let it drop in this way, said Donegan with a deep bow. But really, there is not much harm done. This idle tea bowl is a very old one. It is very impossible to say how much longer it would have lasted. But anyhow, it is not a thing of any public use. So I think it rather fortunate that it is broken thus. This surprising response had an immediate effect. The emperor calmed down. Donegan neither sniveled nor over-apologized, but signaled his own worth and power by treating his mistake with a touch of disdain. The emperor had to respond with a similar aristocratic indifference. His anger made him seem low and petty, an image Donegan was able to manipulate. Among equals, this tactic might backfire. Your indifference, everybody put in the comments below, indifference. So indifference and disdain are very similar. It's almost making something that might be really important, or might really have big ramifications. You make it seem small. That's basically what it is. So let's talk about this for a second, because there are many of us who practice this on ourselves. We make it seem like us accomplishing our goals, our dreams, our desires are indifferent. We make them seem so small, as if if I reach my goal, we don't put enough emphasis on our very own success. So therefore, we minimize our success. We minimize our goals. We minimize our dreams. And we say, if I get there, I get there. We don't plan to get there. It's just a dream to many of us because we have made it so small. But yet, we'll complain about us not getting to the point that we want to be, but we make the point that we want to get to seem as if it doesn't even matter. So I got to ask you today, does your success matter to you? Is it big enough? Have you made it a priority in your life to be successful? Have you made it a priority to reach your goal? Have you made it a priority to see your dream realized? Or have you made your dream small? Indifference. Who can understand the indifference of man? Who can understand the disdain that people have for their very own life? Indifference. You've made it so small that it's not even important to you anymore. Among equals, this tactic might backfire. Your indifference can make you seem callous. But with the master, if you act quickly and without great fuss, it can work to great effect. You bypass his anger response, save him the time and energy he would waste by brooding over it, and allow him the opportunity to display his own lack of pettiness publicly. If we make excuses and denials when we are caught in a mistake or a deception, we stir the waters and make the situation worse. It is often wiser to play things the opposite way. The Renaissance writer Pietro Aretino often boasted of his aristocratic lineage, which was, of course, a fiction, since he was actually the son of a shoemaker. When an enemy of his finally revealed the embarrassing truth, word quickly spread, and soon all of Venice, where he lived at the time, was aghast at Aretino's lies. Had he tried to defend himself, he would have only dragged himself down. His response was masterful. He announced that he was indeed the son of a shoemaker, but this only proved his greatness, since he had risen from the lower stratum of society to his very pinnacle. From then on, he never mentioned his previous lie, trumpeting instead his new position on the matter of his ancestry. Remember this: the powerful responses of niggling, petty annoyances, and irritations are contempt and disdain. Never show that something has affected you or that you are offended. That only shows that you have acknowledged a problem. Contempt is a dish that is best served cold and without affection. Let me repeat that again. Never show that something has affected you or that you are offended. Let me repeat that again. Never show that something has affected you or that you are offended. Now, I'm not good at this at all. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I will put people in the dirt. But anyway, never show that something has affected you or that you are offended. That only shows that you have acknowledged a problem. Now, here's your image. Here's what you want to visualize as it relates to what we're talking about, law number 36, which is disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. It's the tiny wound. It is small but painful and irritating. You try all sorts of medicines. You complain, you scratch and pick at the scab. Doctors only make it worse, transforming the tiny wound into a grave matter. If only you had left the wound alone, letting time heal it and freeing yourself of worry. Leave the tiny, small stuff in your life alone. Leave the petty problems alone. Leave the petty people alone. Here's your authority. Know how to play the card of contempt. It is the most politic kind of revenge, for there are many on whom we should have known nothing if their distinguished opponents had taken no notice of them. There is no revenge like oblivion, for it is the attunement of the unworthy in the dust of their own nothingness. There is no revenge like oblivion. If you just ignore some of these people, you will find that it will soon go away. See, most people are looking for attention. This is why they're so petty. They just want some attention. But if you ignore their attention-grabbing efforts, they will soon disappear out of your life. If you want to know how to get rid of the negative Nancys, how to get rid of the Debbie Downers, ignore them. They're going to find someone else that they can talk to and share their problems, share their issues, share their negativity with, but it doesn't have to be you. Be oblivious to the petty issues that they bring. Now, here's a reversal. It says it's a reversal, and we'll wrap it up right here, guys. You must play the card of contempt with care and delicacy. Most small troubles will vanish on their own if you leave them be. But some will grow and fester unless you attend to them. Ignore a person of inferior stature, and next time you look, he has become a serious rival. And your contempt has made him vengeful as well. The great princes of the Renaissance of Italy chose to ignore Caesar Borgia at the outset of his career as a young general in the army of his father, Pope Alexander VI. By the time they paid attention, it was too late. The cub was now a lion, gobbling up chunks of Italy. Often then, while you show contempt publicly, you will also need to keep an eye on the problem privately. Monitoring its status and making sure it goes away. Do not let it become a cancerous cell. Now, this is what happened between Blockbuster and Netflix. Netflix was a small, up-and-coming company. Blockbuster was the big dog in the show. Blockbuster decided to ignore Netflix when Netflix was on the rise. Blockbuster could have bought out Netflix and killed their competition, but they decided not to. And because they decided not to, they decided to ignore what Netflix was doing. And we still today have Netflix, and Blockbuster is in the dirt. So there's times where you do need to pay attention to your up-and-coming rivalry, your up-and-coming competition. What are they doing to get so much attraction to what they're doing that it might impact your position of power? Now, develop the skill of sensing problems when they're still small and taking care of them before they become intractable. Learn to distinguish between the potentially disastrous and the mildly irritating, the nuisance that will quietly go away on its own. In either case, though, never completely take your eye off of it. As long as it is alive, it can smolder and spark into life. As long as it's alive. So what we learned today, guys, is there are times when we just need to leave things alone. There are times when we need to ignore petty people. But we also need to recognize when we might have some competition that's coming up through the ranks that we need to pay a little bit more attention to. Critical law that we learn to apply in our life, we can always operate from a position of power. Law number 36, disdain the things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Well, guys, ERGJ, your certified financial educator, with our midday manna, as we're going through the 48 laws of power. That was law number 36, which means we got 12 left. So hopefully you've been learning some things. You've been applying some things into your life. This episode has been brought to you by Coral Oral. Again, it's the $5 your black-owned toothbrushes, $5 to get this pack of 4, medium bristle, FDA approved. You're going to brush your teeth anyway. The question is, are you going to make the switch by practicing what you preach and letting your dollars circulate right back within your very own community? If you'd like to get a pack of Coral Oral today, all you got to do is text the word Coral to 678-851-2400, and we'll go work it out to get your pack of toothbrushes out to you today. Well, guys, ERGJ certified financial educator, want to remind you of this, that it takes a village, but it starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. Have a good day.
New black. It's the New Black Wall Street Book Club with your host, Evan Jefferson.